The Valdric Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had conquered more than 3,000 worlds. They had destroyed civilizations that were millions of years old. No species had ever defeated them. No planet had ever survived their attack. They were the masters of everything, and they knew it. When their scout ships found Earth, they were not impressed. The small blue planet was located on the edge of the galaxy, far from the important trade routes and resource centers. The beings who lived there called themselves humans. They had only recently learned how to leave their own planet. Their fastest ships could barely reach their own moon. Their weapons were simple and weak. The Valdric High Command looked at the reports and laughed. This would be the easiest conquest in their long history. They decided to send a large fleet anyway. Not because they needed it, but because they wanted to show their power. They wanted the humans to understand that resistance was impossible. Admiral Jack Wilson woke up early that Tuesday morning. He had been working at the Pentagon for 25 years. He had seen many strange things in his career, but nothing could have prepared him for what was about to happen. He was drinking his first cup of coffee when his phone rang. It was Lieutenant Amy Parker from the Space Monitoring Division. "Sir, you need to come in right now," Amy said. Her voice was calm, but Jack could hear something unusual in it. She was scared. "What is it?" Jack asked. "We have contacts, sir. Many contacts. They are not from Earth." Jack put down his coffee cup and grabbed his jacket. 30 minutes later, he was standing in the main control room at the Pentagon. The screens showed something that made his heart stop. 17,000 ships were entering the solar system. They were huge. The smallest ones were bigger than aircraft carriers. The largest ones were the size of mountains. They moved in perfect formation, like a dark cloud spreading across space. "How long until they reach Earth?" Jack asked. "At their current speed, about 6 hours," Amy replied. Jack nodded slowly. He had always known this day would come. Everyone in his position knew. They had been preparing for 70 years. "Contact Site 7, Jack said. "Tell them it's time." Amy looked at him with surprise. She had heard rumors about Site 7, but she had always thought they were just stories. "Sir, is Site 7 real?" Jack did not answer. He picked up the red phone on his desk and dialed a number that very few people knew existed. On the other side of the world, deep beneath the mountains of Nevada, alarms started ringing. Men and women in military uniforms ran through long metal hallways. Computers that had been sleeping for decades woke up. Machines that had never been tested began to power on. General Tom Davis was 91 years old. He had spent his entire life waiting for this moment. When he was a young captain in 1952, he had been part of the team that found the crashed alien ship in the desert. He had spoken to the dying alien crew. He had heard their warning. "They will come for you," the alien had said with its last breath. "The Valdric always come. They destroy everything. You must be ready." Tom had dedicated his life to making sure humanity would be ready. He had watched as scientists studied the alien technology. He had seen them build weapons that should have been impossible. He had kept the secret for 70 years, even when it nearly broke him. Now, as his wheelchair was pushed into the main command center, Tom felt tears forming in his old eyes. His granddaughter, Colonel Lisa Davis, walked beside him. She had joined the program 10 years ago, following in his footsteps. "The fleet is 6 hours away," Lisa said. "What are your orders, Grandpa?" Tom looked at the screens. He could see the alien ships getting closer. They looked like metal insects. Hungry and cruel. "Wake up everything," Tom said. "Every ship, every weapon, every satellite. It's time to show them what we can do." At the White House, President Mike Adams was meeting with his advisors. The news of the alien fleet had spread quickly through the government. Some people wanted to surrender. Others wanted to try talking to the aliens. A few suggested using nuclear weapons. Mike listened to everyone. But his mind was already made up. He had been told about Site 7 on his first day as president. He had visited the underground facilities. He had seen the ships and the weapons. He knew what humanity was capable of. "We are not going to surrender," Mike said firmly. "And we are not going to beg. We are going to fight." His Secretary of Defense looked worried. "Sir, are you sure the Site 7 weapons will work? They have never been tested in real combat." "They will work," Mike said. "They have to work." Back in space, the Valdric fleet continued its approach. Commander Thex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on his screens. He had conquered over 200 planets in his career. This one looked no different from the others. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the planet," one of his officers reported. "Put it on screen," Thex said. The face of President Mike Adams appeared before him. The human leader looked calm and confident, which surprised Thex. Most species were crying and begging by now. "People of Earth," Thex began, using his standard speech, "you have one planetary rotation to surrender. Give us your world, your resources, and your labor. Do this, and some of you will be allowed to live. Refuse, and we will burn your civilization to ash. This is your only chance." He waited for the fear to appear on the human's face. It did not come. Instead, President Adams smiled slightly. "We received your message. We reject your terms. You have 30 minutes to leave our solar system. This is your only warning." The communication ended. Commander Thex stared at the blank screen for a long moment. In 200 years of conquest, no species had ever refused his demands. Not once. He felt something strange in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was doubt. He pushed the feeling away and turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare the main guns. Target their largest cities. Let us teach these humans what happens to those who refuse the Valdric Empire." The weapons began to charge. In a few moments, Earth would burn. Or so Commander Thex believed. 73 years ago, on a hot summer night in 1952, a young Army captain named Robert Hayes was driving through the Nevada desert. He was returning to base after a long day of training exercises. The sky was full of stars, and the road was empty. Then he saw the light. It was bright green and falling fast from the sky. Robert stopped his jeep and watched as the object crashed into the desert about 2 miles away. The impact shook the ground and sent a column of dust into the air. Robert should have called for backup. He should have waited for orders. But something pulled him toward the crash site. He drove his jeep across the rough desert ground until he reached a huge hole in the earth. In the center of the hole was a ship. It was not like any aircraft Robert had ever seen. It was made of a dark metal that seemed to absorb the moonlight. Strange symbols covered its surface. Smoke rose from several large holes in its body. Robert climbed down into the hole. His heart was beating so fast he could hear it in his ears. When he reached the ship, he found an opening in its side. He went inside. The interior was dark and filled with smoke. Robert used his flashlight to find his way. The walls were covered with screens and buttons and devices he could not understand. And on the floor, he found them. There were 3 beings. They were not human. Their skin was pale blue, and they had 4 arms each. Their eyes were large and dark. 2 of them were already dead. But the third one was still breathing. Robert knelt beside the dying alien. He did not know what to do. He did not know if the creature could understand him. But he felt he had to try. "Can you hear me?" Robert asked. "I want to help you." The alien's eyes opened. It looked at Robert with an expression that might have been surprise. Then it spoke, and somehow Robert could understand its words, as if they were appearing directly in his mind. "Human," the alien said. "You must listen. We came to warn you." "Warn us about what?" Robert asked. "The Valdric Empire. They are coming. Not today. Not tomorrow. But they will come. They conquer every world they find. They destroy every species that resists. They have done this for 10,000 years. Robert felt cold fear spreading through his body. "What can we do?" The alien reached out with one of its arms and touched Robert's hand. "Learn. Study our ship. Study our technology. Build weapons. Build ships. Prepare. You have time, but not forever. The Valdric will find you eventually. When they come, you must be ready." "How do we fight them?" Robert asked. "They sound too powerful." The aliens' breathing was getting weaker. They are powerful, but they are also arrogant. They believe they cannot lose. They have never faced a species that was truly prepared. Be that species, human. Surprise them. Destroy them before they destroy you. The alien died a few moments later. Robert sat in the dark ship for a long time, thinking about what he had heard. Then he went back to his jeep and called his commanding officer. Within hours, the crash site was surrounded by soldiers. The government took control of the ship and the bodies. Everything was classified at the highest level. The public was told that a weather balloon had crashed. No one questioned the story. Robert Hayes was put in charge of a new secret program. Its mission was simple: prepare humanity for the coming invasion. He was given unlimited resources and complete authority. He was told that failure was not an option. For the next 40 years, Robert led the program. Scientists from around the world were secretly brought in to study the alien technology. They worked in underground facilities that did not officially exist. They made discoveries that changed everything they knew about physics and energy in space. It was not easy. The alien technology was incredibly advanced. Many times, the scientists thought they would never understand it. But slowly, year by year, they made progress. By 1970, they had figured out how the alien shields worked. By 1985, they had built their first experimental spacecraft using alien technology. By 2000, they had developed weapons that could destroy entire fleets in seconds. Robert Hayes died in 1994. He never saw the invasion he had spent his life preparing for. But before he died, he passed leadership of the program to his young assistant, a brilliant man named Tom Davis. Tom continued Robert's work with the same dedication. He expanded the program. He built more facilities. He recruited more scientists and soldiers. He made sure that when the Valdric finally came, humanity would be ready. And now, 73 years after that night in the desert, the Valdric had arrived. Tom Davis sat in his wheelchair in the command center of Site 7, watching their ships fill the screens. He was old and tired, but his mind was still sharp. "All systems are online," reported Colonel Lisa Davis, his granddaughter. "The fleet is ready to launch. The Prometheus array is charging." Tom nodded slowly. The Prometheus array was their greatest weapon. It had taken 30 years to build. It could release a burst of energy so powerful that it would erase anything it touched from existence. Not destroy. Erase. The target would simply stop being real. "What about the other sites?" Tom asked. "Site 12 inches the Atlantic is ready. Site 8 inches the Pacific is ready. The moon base is ready. Everything is operational." Tom closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about Robert Hayes, the young captain who had started all of this. He thought about all the scientists who had dedicated their lives to the program. He thought about everyone who had kept the secret for 70 years. "Robert," Tom whispered, "they are finally here. And we are ready. Just like you wanted." Lisa put her hand on her grandfather's shoulder. "Are you okay, Grandpa?" Tom opened his eyes and smiled. "I am fine, sweetheart. I have been waiting for this day my entire life. I just wish Robert could be here to see it." "He is here," Lisa said softly. "In everything we built. In everything we are about to do." Tom looked at the screens again. The Valdric fleet was now only 3 hours away. They were about to learn that Earth was not like the other planets they had conquered. Humanity was not like the other species they had destroyed. "Begin the launch sequence," Tom ordered. "Let us show these invaders what happens when they threaten our home." Deep beneath the surface of the Earth, across every continent, and under every ocean, thousands of machines began to wake up. The moment humanity had prepared for had finally arrived. Commander Thek stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds. It was the largest ship in the Valdric fleet, measuring over 50 kilometers from front to back. Its weapons could burn entire continents. Its shields could withstand the heat of a star. It had led the conquest of over 100 planets, and it had never been damaged. Around the Destroyer of Worlds, 17,000 other Valdric ships moved into attack position. They spread out in a massive circle around Earth, blocking any possibility of escape. This was standard procedure. The Valdric had done this many times before. Thex looked at the blue planet on his screen. It was beautiful, he had to admit. The oceans were deep and clean. The land was green and fertile. This world would make an excellent addition to the Empire. The humans would make good workers, once they were properly controlled. "Commander," said his second officer, a female named Vera. "The humans have not responded to our ultimatum." Thex waved his hand dismissively. "They are probably arguing among themselves. Primitive species always do. Some want to fight. Some want to surrender. Give them a little more time to realize they have no choice." "There is something else, Commander. Our deep scans are detecting unusual energy readings from the planet's surface." Thex frowned. "What kind of energy readings?" "We are not sure. The signatures do not match anything in our database. They seem to be coming from underground facilities in several locations around the planet." "Thanks for watching." "And this video?" Thex laughed. "Underground bunkers. They think they can hide from us. How adorable. Remind me to dig them out after we finish burning their cities." He turned his attention back to the main screen. The human deadline had passed. It was time to begin the conquest. "Target their largest population centers," Thex ordered. "Start with the areas they call North America and Europe. Use medium-power weapons only. We want to leave enough infrastructure for our occupation forces." The weapons officers began entering coordinates. Across the fleet, massive energy cannons started to charge. In a few minutes, millions of humans would die. Then something strange happened. The ocean in the area the humans called the Pacific began to move. Not from waves or currents, but from something rising from below. Something enormous. Thex leaned forward in his seat. "What is that?" "Magnify." The screen zoomed in on the disturbance. What Thex saw made his blood turn cold. A structure was emerging from the water. It was black and shaped like a ring, but it was bigger than anything Thex had ever seen. It was bigger than his flagship. It was bigger than 10 of his flagships put together. Water poured off its surface in massive waterfalls as it rose higher and higher into the sky. "Commander," Vera said, her voice shaking. "That structure is over 200 kilometers in diameter." Thex could not speak. In his 200 years of service, he had never seen anything like this. The Valdric had conquered species with advanced technology before, but nothing on this scale. Nothing even close. "That is impossible," he finally managed to say. "Our scouts said these humans could barely reach their moon. How could they build something like that?" Before Vera could answer, more alarms started sounding. More structures were rising from Earth. Ships emerged from the ocean floors, from hidden bases in the mountains, from beneath the ice at the planet's poles. Thousands of ships, each one gleaming with technology that the Valdric did not recognize. And then they came from the moon. The humans had hidden an entire fleet on the dark side of their moon. These ships were larger than anything else, massive vessels that made the emerging Earth fleet look small by comparison. "Get me a count," Thex demanded. "How many ships do they have?" Vera worked frantically at her console. Her face was pale with shock. "Commander, I am counting over 8,000 combat vessels. And there are more launching every second." 8,000 ships. The humans had been hiding 8,000 ships. And that giant ring structure in the Pacific was still rising, now floating high above the atmosphere. "This cannot be right," Thex said. "Our intelligence said they had no space combat capability. Our scouts observed them for months. Where did all of this come from?" The communications officer interrupted. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the planet. It is from their leader." "Put it on screen," Thex said. President Mike Adams appeared again. He was standing in what looked like a military command center, surrounded by officers and screens showing the human fleet. "Commander Thex," the human said, "I gave you 30 minutes to leave our solar system. That time has passed. You chose to stay and charge your weapons. That was a mistake." Thex tried to speak, but his voice would not come. He just stared at the human on the screen. "For 70 years, we have known you were coming. Adams continued. For 70 years, we have prepared. We studied. We built. We waited. And now that you are here, I want you to understand something very important. The human leaned closer to the camera. His eyes were calm and cold. You came here expecting to find a primitive species, a helpless world, an easy conquest. You were wrong. Earth is not your prey. Humanity is not your victim. We are your worst nightmare. Adams stepped back from the camera. You have exactly 60 seconds to power down your weapons and surrender your fleet. If you do not comply, we will destroy you. All of you. In an instant, the transmission ended. Thex sat in stunned silence. His officers were looking at him, waiting for orders. But for the first time in his long career, Thex did not know what to do. Commander, Vera said quietly, what are your orders? Thex looked at the screen. He looked at the massive human fleet surrounding his ships. He looked at the giant ring floating above the planet, now glowing with an energy that his sensors could not identify. He thought about retreating. He thought about surrendering. But 200 years of pride and arrogance would not let him. We are the Valdric Empire, Thex said, his voice finding its strength again. We do not surrender to primitive species. All ships, target that ring structure. Fire everything we have. 17,000 ships opened fire at once. It was the last order Commander Thex would ever give. Captain Ben Miller sat at the controls of the Prometheus array. His hands were resting on the firing panel, steady and calm. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. They had trained for this moment for 15 years. They had run thousands of simulations. They were ready. Enemy fleet is opening fire, reported Lieutenant Dave Cooper from his position at the sensor station. Dave had been Ben's best friend since they joined the program together. They had promised each other that when this day came, they would face it side by side. Shield status? Ben asked. All shields at full power, replied Dr. Kate Miller, Ben's wife. She was the chief scientist on the array, responsible for keeping the massive weapon functioning. The enemy weapons are not even scratching us. Ben nodded. He was not surprised. The array's shields were based on technology far more advanced than anything the Valdric had. Their weapons might as well have been water guns. On the main screen, Ben could see the Valdric energy beams hitting the array's shields. They made beautiful patterns of light where they struck, like fireworks exploding in slow motion. But the shields did not even flicker. Sir, said Sergeant Emma Stone from the communications station. The President is on the line. Put him through, Ben said. President Adams appeared on a small screen next to Ben's chair. The President's face was serious, but Ben could see determination in his eyes. Captain Miller, the enemy has refused our warning and opened fire. You are authorized to respond. Understood, Mr. President, Ben replied. It will be my honor. Make it quick, Captain. And make sure they remember. The connection ended. Ben took a deep breath and looked around at his crew. These were the people he trusted most in the world. They had given everything to reach this moment. All stations report ready status, Ben commanded. One by one, his crew reported in. Weapons ready. Targeting ready. Power systems ready. Everything was functioning perfectly. Dave, how many enemy ships can you count? Ben asked. Dave checked his sensors. 16,000. 973 confirmed targets. All within optimal range. Ben smiled slightly. Let us make it an even 0. He placed his hand on the firing control. The panel glowed blue under his touch, recognizing his authority. A final confirmation screen appeared. Array power at maximum, Kate reported. Quantum field is stable. We are ready to fire. Ben looked at the screen showing the Valdric fleet. Thousands of ships, all firing at Earth and its defenses. They were so confident in their power. So certain they would win. They had conquered 3,000 worlds with that confidence, but they had never faced humanity. Firing, Ben said, and pressed the button. The Prometheus array released its energy. There was no dramatic beam of light, no explosion of color, no sound at all. The array simply released a wave of quantum-disrupted energy that expanded outward at nearly the speed of light. When the wave touched a Valdric ship, the ship did not explode. It did not break apart. It simply stopped existing. Every atom, every molecule, every particle that made up the ship was erased from reality. One moment the ship was there. The next moment, it was not. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Gone. As if it had never existed at all. The wave spread through the Valdric fleet in 0.003 seconds. When it was finished, there was nothing left. 17,000 ships. Millions of Valdric soldiers. The largest invasion fleet the Empire had ever assembled. All of it erased in the blink of an eye. The bridge of the Prometheus array was completely silent. Everyone stared at the screens, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Where the massive Valdric fleet had been, there was now only empty space. Confirmed, Dave whispered. All enemy ships have been neutralized. I am detecting no surviving vessels within range. Ben sat back in his chair. His heart was racing, but he kept his voice steady. Any damage to our forces? Emma checked her console. Negative, Captain. Our fleet reports no casualties. Earth reports no damage. The enemy did not get a single hit through our shields. Kate came to stand beside her husband. Tears were running down her face. We did it, Ben. We actually did it. Ben took her hand and squeezed it gently. We all did it. Everyone who worked on this program for 70 years. They are the real heroes. Down on Earth, in the command center at Site 7, General Tom Davis watched the screens with tears in his own eyes. The old man had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. Now it was over. Humanity had won. Grandpa, Lisa said softly. Are you okay? Tom laughed, a sound full of relief and joy. I am more than okay, sweetheart. I am the happiest man on Earth right now. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an old photograph. It showed two young men in army uniforms, standing in front of a crashed alien ship. One of them was Tom, young and strong. The other was Robert Hayes. We did it. Robert, Tom whispered to the photograph. We kept our promise. We saved them all. Around the world, people who had been watching the sky saw the flash of light as the enemy fleet disappeared. They did not know exactly what had happened, but they knew one thing for certain. Earth was safe. Celebrations began almost immediately. In every city, in every country, people poured into the streets. They hugged each other. They cried. They laughed. For the first time in history, every human being on the planet felt the same emotion at the same moment. Pride. Pride in what they had accomplished. Pride in the secret protectors who had worked for decades to save them. Pride in being human. In Washington, President Adams addressed the nation and the world. Today, we faced the greatest threat in human history. An empire that has destroyed thousands of civilizations came to our world expecting an easy victory. They found something very different. They found humanity united. Humanity prepared. Humanity victorious. He paused, letting his words sink in. To the heroes who built our defenses, who kept our secrets, who fought to protect us all. Thank you. Because of your sacrifice, Earth stands free tonight, and it will remain free forever. The cheering could be heard from space, but the day was not over yet. Humanity had won the battle. Now it was time to send a message to the rest of the galaxy. A message that would change everything. The Supreme Council of the Valdric Empire met in their great hall on their home world of Valdros Prime. The hall was ancient, built over 10,000 years ago to celebrate the beginning of their conquest of the galaxy. Golden statues of past emperors lined the walls. Flags from conquered worlds hung from the ceiling. Everything in the room spoke of power and victory. But today, the mood was very different. Emperor Krath sat on his throne, his face gray with shock. Around him, his advisors whispered frantically to each other. None of them could believe what had happened. None of them wanted to believe it. Tell me again, Emperor Krath said, his voice barely above a whisper. Tell me exactly what happened. Grand Admiral Vex stepped forward. He was the highest-ranking military officer in the Empire, responsible for all their conquests. His hands were shaking. "We sent the Third Fleet to the planet called Earth, Your Majesty. 17,000 ships, our largest invasion force ever assembled." "And?" the Emperor demanded. "They are gone, Your Majesty. All of them, destroyed in less than 1 second." The council chamber erupted in shouts and cries. Several advisors fainted. Others demanded that Vex must be lying, that such a thing was impossible. The Emperor raised his hand for silence. "How?" he asked. "How could primitive beings destroy our greatest fleet?" "We do not know, Your Majesty. Our sensors recorded nothing. One moment our ships were there, firing their weapons. The next moment, they were gone. Not destroyed. Gone. As if they had never existed." The Emperor sat back in his throne. For 10,000 years, the Valdric had believed they were the most powerful species in the galaxy. They had conquered everyone they met. They had never lost a battle. Now, in a single moment, everything they believed had been proven wrong. "There is more, Your Majesty," Admiral Vex said quietly. "We are receiving a transmission. It is being broadcast to every communication relay in the Empire simultaneously." The Emperor frowned. That was impossible. To broadcast across such distances would require technology far beyond anything the Valdric possessed. "Play it," he ordered. The large screen at the front of the chamber flickered to life. A human face appeared. It was President Mike Adams. To the rulers of the Valdric Empire, the human began. "By now, you have learned what happened to your invasion fleet. Let me be clear about what occurred. We gave your commander a warning. He chose to ignore it. The destruction of your fleet was his decision, not ours." The Emperor leaned forward, studying the human's face. He saw no fear there. No desperation. Only calm confidence. "For 70 years, Adams continued, we have known about your empire. We have studied your technology. We have built defenses that you cannot overcome. We have created weapons that you cannot match. What happened today was not a battle. It was a demonstration." Several advisors began to protest, but the Emperor silenced them with a gesture. He wanted to hear every word. "We know that you have conquered over 3,000 worlds. We know that you have destroyed countless civilizations. We know that you rule through fear and violence. This ends now." The human's eyes seemed to look directly at the Emperor. "Earth is now under humanity's protection. But we do not stop there. From this day forward, any world that asks for our help will receive it. Any species threatened by your empire can call upon humanity, and we will answer. Your time of unchallenged conquest is over." President Adams paused, letting his words sink in across the galaxy. "But we are not like you. We do not wish to rule others. We do not seek to destroy your empire. Unless you force us to. We offer you a choice. The Emperor held his breath. You can continue on your current path. You can send more fleets to attack Earth or our allies. If you do, we will destroy them as easily as we destroyed the first one. We will find your home world. We will end your empire forever. This is not a threat, it is a statement of fact." Adam's expression softened slightly. "Or you can choose a different path. You can end your conquests. You can release the worlds you have enslaved. You can join the community of peaceful species in this galaxy. If you make this choice, you will find humanity to be a generous friend. We have much knowledge to share. We have technology that could help your people live better lives. We would welcome you as partners, not enemies." The human leader straightened. "The choice is yours. Choose wisely. We will be watching." The transmission ended. The council chamber was absolutely silent. No one spoke. No one moved. The Emperor sat frozen on his throne, his mind struggling to process what he had just heard. Finally, one of the younger advisors spoke up. "Your Majesty, we must respond with overwhelming force. We have thousands more fleets. We can send them all." Admiral Vex shook his head. "And lose them all." You did not understand what you just heard. They destroyed 17,000 ships in less than 1 second. They have weapons we cannot even detect. They could erase our entire military without breaking a sweat. Then what do you suggest? The young advisor demanded. The admiral looked at the emperor. I suggest we consider their offer, Your Majesty. For the first time in our history, we have met a species stronger than us. We can fight and die, or we can adapt and survive. The emperor sat in silence for a long time. 10,000 years of conquest. 10,000 years of believing they were the greatest power in the galaxy. All of it shattered by a small blue planet on the edge of nowhere. But the emperor had not ruled for 300 years by being foolish. He knew when to fight and when to negotiate. Contact the humans, he said finally. Tell them we wish to discuss their offer. Tell them we are willing to talk. The message was sent within the hour. 3 days later, the first human diplomatic ship arrived at Valdros Prime. It was met not with weapons, but with an honor guard. The empire that had never surrendered was learning something new. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is make peace. Back on Earth, General Tom Davis watched the news of the diplomatic mission from his hospital bed. His old heart was finally failing, but he did not mind. He had completed his mission. He had kept humanity safe. Lisa sat beside him, holding his hand. They are talking about building an embassy on their homeworld, Grandpa. Can you believe it? We went from almost being conquered to establishing diplomatic relations in less than a week. Tom smiled weakly. That is humanity for you, sweetheart. We are very good at making friends. Even better at making enemies regret being enemies. He looked out the window at the blue sky. The galaxy will never be the same, he said softly. And that is exactly how it should be. He closed his eyes and let out a long, peaceful breath. Somewhere among the stars, humanity was just beginning its greatest adventure. Tom Davis smiled one last time. He had given them the chance. Now, it was their turn to build something wonderful, and they would.